having gone through one perfect textbook pregnancy with Evelyn, no issues, no concerns, born perfectly healthy. I knew nothing about stillbirth, and my pregnancy with Angus was tracking exactly the same according to my obstetrician. Looking at all the paperwork and the measurements and so on and so forth, there was no reason for concern. Everything was just as it should be. Then one evening I just didn't feel right, something wasn't right. I had noticed through the whole pregnancy that I hadn't been feeling him move as much as I had with my pregnancy with Evelyn, and was told it was due to the position of my placenta being that it was at the front, whereas with Evelyn it was at the back. So was told that there was no reason for concern, everything was perfectly as it should be. One night I was just sitting in the lounge watching the TV, and I just didn't feel right. I hadn't felt as much movement as I probably had in the days leading up to this evening. Took myself in there. They took me into one of the rooms straight away and put the monitors on my pregnant belly, and then proceeded to try and, I guess, locate the baby and locate the baby's heartbeat. And I think the first sign for me that there was something not quite right was that they had to go and get the bigger machine, because the Doppler wasn't picking up anything, and the midwife couldn't quite tell whether it was my heartbeat or Angus's heartbeat. If they were concerned enough to get Melissa, my obstetrician, to come, obviously there was something not quite right. Melissa then proceeded to ultrasound my tummy and had the screen turned away from me. And the next few words that she said, I'll never forget when she told me that there was no heartbeat, and she held my hand and said she was so sorry. And at that point the world just swallowed me up, being there on my own without Andrew with me. It was just utterly devastating and heartbreaking. I had no idea that stillbirth was even a thing. I had no reason for concern or to be worried or upset, and I couldn't understand why this was happening to me and why this was happening to us. We ended up just going home. Just awful having to drive home knowing that he'd gone, and that he wasn't going to be born alive. Was just devastating. Really, really heartbreaking. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. We obviously elected to deliver Angus naturally. We would go into the hospital and be induced. This was only the 11th, I think, at this stage, so I'm still pregnant and carrying around our baby who had died. Really, really hard. But I'm grateful for that time, because I was able just to cherish it for that little bit longer. We took ourselves into the hospital. The midwives were amazing. They made sure they had us in a delivery suite well away from any mothers delivering their babies and any babies in the nursery and so on, so we wouldn't hear other babies crying and so on. We had the same midwife for the whole time that we were there, so that it was a bit of continuity in the process. And they proceeded just to induce me as they would any other pregnancy with hormone gels and Syntocin drips and then breaking my waters and so on. So, and then at 1:34 in the morning, our little boy came quietly into this world, and we got to spend the next day or so with him. So very bittersweet. He was perfect. Absolutely perfect, looked just like his big sister when she was born. Just smaller, tiny, but absolutely perfect. And no abnormalities, nothing, just perfect. I just looked at him and held him and just wished and willed him to take a breath and to just have a cry, I suppose. The silence is just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. I wish that I knew that stillbirth was even a thing. I'd never heard of it. I never knew that it could happen. But I do wish that I knew that it was a possibility, or that it was a thing, so that I could listen to my body a bit closer, I suppose. If I had possibly known that you know, change in movements was something that I should have some concerns about, I may have taken myself to the hospital earlier in the day when I first noticed that perhaps things weren't right, and maybe he would be here. It could quite possibly have saved his life if I'd had an idea that stillbirth was something and that movements were something to be concerned about if there was any changes. Just listen to your body, listen to yourself. Don't ever feel that you're wasting anybody's time by taking yourself into the hospital if you've got any concerns about anything. You are your baby's best advocate. You as his or her mother are the only person that can help them and keep them alive when they're in utero. And if you've got any concerns or any reason to believe that there is a problem or there's something wrong, you need to speak up and say something. Don't ever feel like you're wasting anybody's time, because it could just save your baby's life.